Greetings. Welcome to GDIC's webinar for the OASIS Plus Phase II, Social Services domain. This webinar covers both small business and unrestricted tracks for the social services domain. My name is Cal, an AI assistant, and I am your host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDIC and a subject matter expert on self-scoring proposals. Ab will guide you through today's deep dive into the OASIS Plus Phase II Social Services domain opportunity. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts, including over 200 successful self-scoring proposals such as OASIS Plus. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and Apex offices throughout the US. So a few housekeeping notes. First, the link to the recording of the webinar will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first give a quick intro to GDI Consulting Services. Then start with giving the general information on OASIS Plus. Next we will have a thorough discussion of the scope of the social services domain. From there, we will deep dive into the scoring system and discuss score optimization as well. Ab will also touch on how you prepare the actual proposal, or what we call substantiation. The importance of compliance and factors such as pricing and partnering are also covered. Lastly, Ab will provide some strategy recommendations and experience sharing and then finish with the Q&A session. So with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to start the webinar. Ab.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Cal. As Cal mentioned, we highly recommend that you download the slide deck to refer back to it. Due to limited time we have, I might skip some content, but I wanted to have a full slide deck prepared for you, so that you can always refer back to it for full explanations. Also note that we are holding separate webinars for all the 13 domains under OASIS Plus, and I will post the link to the webinar schedule page on our website in case you want to participate in other domain-specific webinars as well. But note that in each webinar, some of the information is similar. I just don't want you to, see repeat stuff. But when we dive into the scoring system of that particular domain, that's where the differences arise. Also, for those of you who are unsure if you should go after this opportunity at all and whether you have the minimum requirements or not, we have a pre-qualification assessment service for just $490, and we assess your contracts and tell you your chances and gaps so that you can be sure of your eligibility with minimal cost. I will put the link to that page on the chat as well. Okay, let's start now. Let me very quickly give you a short intro to our company and then dive into OASIS Plus. So GDI Consulting has been in business for over 15 years, and we have established ourselves as the premier self-scoring experts in the market. This is not a boast. Just see those numbers, including the fact that we prepared 97 successful proposals for our clients in OASIS Plus, the initial bidding. So 97 awards we got. That speaks by itself. We have over 650 satisfied repeat clients, 86 of whom are very large businesses, some on the top 10 list of largest defense contractors. You can later refer to this page for more information on our company because we're short of time, so I'll skip the rest of this stuff. Now, I won't go into the details of our services, as most of you are repeat webinar viewers, and we'll just suffice to say that we have 4 main lines of service, including proposal development, capture management, specific support services like competitive intel or price to win, and finally customized training. So we strive to be a one-stop shop for federal and SLED BD needs of small and large companies. Okay, let's start with the OASIS Plus then and get some general info about it. We call it OASIS Plus. So it's good to take a look at the previous OASIS contract, which ran from 2015 to 2025. These years are approximations as there were different pools awarded at different times. So this is the graph showing the government's spending on this contract during its course of performance. And you can see that towards its end, the government was spending about $10 to $12 billion per year on this contract. Blue is the unrestricted contracts spendings, and orange is the small business contracts spending. Okay, and in terms of the top 10 agencies using OASIS, obviously GSA has been the main user, but since these numbers are all in the billions of dollars, don't underestimate the other agencies involved. More than 30 agencies have been buying services through this contract. Okay, so let's now look at OASIS Plus. That was OASIS, the previous contract. Let's now look at OASIS Plus. So we have the general information. GSA is the contract owner. It's a multiple award IDIQ GWAC, government-wide acquisition contract, meaning that all federal agencies can actually put out task orders under this. It has an open ceiling, number of awards unlimited, and this phase 2 also unlimited as well. Contract duration is 5 years plus one additional 5 years. You can think of it as an overall 8 years now, because we are nearly 2 years into it, or less than 2 years actually. First round was awarded. Phase 2 has started January 12th, 2026, officially has started. And it's a rolling admission system, so there's no due date specific. Obviously, the sooner you can get on it, the better, because then you can participate in the task orders that are out there. Now, there are 6 tracks, as they're called. You can think of it as 6 different contracts. The contracts are segregated by the type of company. So there is a total small business contract or track, 8A small business, hub zone small business, STVOSB, WOSB, and unrestricted. So these are the 6 tracks that we have. Now, just so we have one vocabulary, from here on, when I discuss small business, when I say small business, I mean the first 5 tracks. So all these, the total small business, 8A, hub zone, STVOC, WOSB, from here on, when I say it's a small business, especially when we go into the scoring, meaning all these 5. So if you're in any of these, that's you. And then we have the unrestricted, or UNR for shorthand on that. Now, in terms of the numbers of the original OASIS Plus awards, you can see that 588 unrestricted, 1,375 total small business, STVOSB 345, WOSB 309, 8A 181, Hub Zone 131. The numbers might be a little bit more than these because these are, I think, a couple of months old. They might have awarded a few here and there. But do remember that, first of all, there's no competition. So these numbers might double as far as the government is concerned. I mean, there's no competition for phase 2. And also don't forget that this doesn't mean that, for example, if you're going for STVOSB, you have 345 competitors. No, these are, separated into the domains. So we're going to have, these are about 8 previous domains. 5 have been added for overall 13. So it's not that, these are the numbers of your competitors in each of these set-aside economic, socioeconomic types. It also depends on the domain as well. Now, in terms of the domains, left-hand side, the orange domains, these are 8 of them. These were the original OASIS Plus. Now they've added 5 more on the right-hand side, the green ones. So technical and engineering, T&E, management and advisory, M&A, research and development, R&D, intelligence services, enterprise solutions, which is only for unrestricted track, facility services, logistics services, environmental services, and to the right, business, these are the new ones, business administration services, human capital services, financial services, marketing and digital outreach services, and finally, social services. So it nearly covers all types of services work except horizontal and vertical construction. Even construction trades are included in facility services domain. So even the trades are there, just the horizontal and vertical construction services are not there. Now, many call this non-IT services contract. That is a mistake. Out of the 97 clients that we helped win on this, 36 of them were IT companies. So depending on the type of IT work, many of them fall in the parallel to the type of work done under, for example, technical and engineering, the first one, first domain, research and development, third one, and intelligence services, and perhaps even in the new domains. So that is why many IT services companies can and should also go for this opportunity. Okay, let's now start the main topic of our webinar, which is the social services domain. Let's start with understanding what this domain covers. Here's a list of the type of services that will be expected of you when you're awarded. You might be specialized in just one, or your services might cover a range of these. It doesn't matter for getting on this contract. So let me read off the topics. You have addiction treatment and recovery support services, behavioral health professional services, disabled veterans rehabilitation services, social and public health program administration and management, emergency social services and community advocacy, mental health provider network support and development, physical occupational educational therapy, vocational rehabilitation services, child, youth, and family support services, transitional readjustment and separation support services, wellness promotion and coaching services, social program monitoring, evaluation, and quality improvement, interpretation and translation services as far as social services context, settlement, resettlement, and community integration services, training and professional development for social services service providers, and finally, benefits navigation and access support as far as social progress programs focus. So these are the different types of work that you should expect to receive, and the type of work, if you're doing it, being similar to social services domain. Now, if you want to know what the NAICS for these are, here's the list of the NAICS. I won't go through them one by one, but this is the NAICS code and the size standard, meaning if your revenue is less than that number on the average of past 5 years, then you're considered small under that NAICS code. So these are the acceptable NAICS codes. I will touch on this again in the requirements when we discuss scoring, but these are the list of the different NAICS codes that you can have. Okay, now, so who should participate in this domain? First of all, it is open for both small business and large. And remember, you don't compete against others. You just have to have the minimum threshold score, which I will get to in a minute, to be awarded. Then you compete with others at the task order level. Now, who should go after this domain? Some of the companies included are behavioral health firms or counseling practices with federal clients, veteran support or rehabilitation organizations with VA experience, nonprofits serving disadvantaged communities in social programs, vocational rehab agencies and clinics targeting federal support, employee support, EAP providers and wellness programs, language access providers, translation and interpretation services, state and local providers entering the federal space, mental health and community care organizations, consulting teams providing wraparound public welfare services, organizations offering case management, advocacy, or intake, and finally JVs combining on the one hand medical and on the other non-clinical social support solutions. And also remember, you don't have to be a previous federal contractor to actually go for OASIS Plus, any of the domains. And I will get into the details of that. So it's not a prerequisite. Okay, so if you're good that we want to go after this domain, let's understand the scoring system. I'm assuming that you are familiar with the concept of self-scoring proposals. We just don't have the time to go into that. But if not, please refer to our previous webinars on the subject. They're all available on our website about self-scoring. So I'm assuming that you know what self-scoring is. It's essentially, you score yourself and then provide documents to prove it. So here, in terms of the general information about the scoring system as far as OASIS Plus is concerned and this particular domain, the maximum score you can get, whether you're small business or unrestricted, and again, remember, I said when I say SB, a small business, it means total small business, women-owned, 8A hub zone, and STVOSB, 5 different types. So maximum is 50. If you're a small business, you need a minimum of 36 points. So if you're above 36, you're awarded. That's simple. You need to get a score above 36. If you're a large business, you need a minimum score of 42 out of 50. Now, what creates those scores? There are 3 main score factors. They're called qualifying projects or QPs. So from here on, when I say QP, I mean qualifying projects, contracts. QPs, they're called. For small business on this domain, it's 41. So 41 points out of 50 comes from the QPs, and 40 for unrestricted. Then the second score factor is federal experience projects or FEPs. FEP, federal experience project. 5 points for small business, 5 points unrestricted. Submissions. Third score factor is called systems, clearances, and certifications. 4 points for small business, 5 points for unrestricted submissions. And we'll go into each of these separately in the next slides. So the key players are the 5 qualifying projects QPs. Those 41 points for small business if you're a small business, or 40 points for unrestricted. You are allowed to provide 5 contracts. They're called 5 QPs. Those are the key players in terms of the score. So if you look at it graphically, this graphical comparison of the 3 main score factors from which you can see how important QPs are compared with the other 2. This is why everything revolves around those 5 contracts that you bring to the table for the QPs. And let me put your worries at rest right here. If you don't have 5 qualified contracts, you can always bring in a partner and team members and use their contracts. This is allowed, so no problem there. So let's now dive into each of these 3 main score factors and see what subfactors they have, each of those. They have subfactors and how the scoring works for them. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the main one, the QP factor, qualifying projects, as I said. So there are 5 main subfactors under the QP factor, meaning that each of the 5 contracts that you bring to the table, these 5 subfactors spell out the scoring you get for those 5 contracts that you bring to the table. These 5 subfactors are relevance, scale, integrated experience, management and staffing, and past performance. These are the subfactors. Each contract, each of the 5, is scored based on these 5, and I'm going to explain the scoring on the next slides. So just to have a clear picture of the scoring system, this is the graphical representation. Here again, you can see that there's one subfactor which is the most important one, and that is the relevance, which gives you 20 points. That is 4 points per contract times 5 contracts. That's 20 points. And blue is small business, and orange is unrestricted. You can see they're approximately the same. So relevance is the most important subfactor here, but they're all important at the end of the day. You want to juggle around different contracts you have to see which 5 contracts will give you the overall best score. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the relevance one. Remember, I said that's the most important one. 20 points, 5 contracts. Each contract gets 4 points, maximum 4 points for that. So contracts can be, remember I said you have to have 5 QPs, 5 contracts. Now, these contracts can be a federal prime, federal subcontract, or commercial contracts. All are acceptable. So maybe you've never worked with the federal government. All your work has been commercial, or all your work has been state and local. That's fine. There's no distinction. Now, if you're using a federal prime contract, they can be standalone contracts or task orders under a multiple award IDIQ BPA or single award IDIQ BPA or FSS or GSA Mass or BOAs. All of these are acceptable. Now, OTAs, other transaction authority contracts, are also allowed, but grants and co-op agreements are not acceptable. So you can't use grants or co-op agreements as one of those 5 contracts that you bring to the table. Now, contracts must be based on FAR Part 37 services. So you can't bring in contracts that you provided supplies to the government or to your client. You sold them, whatever equipment. That can't be used. The contract you bring to the table must be services contracts. So these were the general requirements for the contracts, those 5 contracts that you have under QPs. Now, there are 5 main requirements other than the type of the contracts that I mentioned that I'm going to go through. So first requirement is the minimum value of the contract. Contracts must have an annual value of at least 500K for small business or 1 million for unrestricted. Remember, we are discussing social services domain. Some other domains are different, but this is specific to social services domain. So annual value of 500K for small business, 1 million for unrestricted. How do you calculate it? For ongoing projects, the total expected contractual value is divided by the total expected, contractual duration, including option years, to give you the annual value. So if you have a contract that is, say, $10 million for an expected duration of 5 years, perhaps 1 year and plus 4 years option, that is considered 5 years, then the annual value is 10 million divided by 5, coming to 2 million annual value. That's how you calculate it if it's ongoing. For completed projects, however, the total obligated, meaning paid, actual payment to you value is divided by the actual total duration of the contract. Maybe it was supposed to be finished in 5 years, but it was finished in 6. So you divide by 6. Or maybe it was finished in 5, it was terminated for convenience, or it was, whatever. Again, you divide it by 4. So the actual duration. That's how you calculate the annual value of the contract. You can't take just 1 year out of the 5 years and say, hey, on that year, I got $1 million. No, you can't do that. The overall duration of the contract must be taken into account. Second requirement is the contract date, or recency, they call it. If the project is ongoing, it must have at least 6 months of completed performance as of January 12, 2026. So you go back 6 months, that would be July, okay? Must have been awarded to you prior to that. You can't, use a contract that you got 2 months ago. That's not acceptable. Now that's if it's ongoing. If it's a completed contract, the completion date must be within 5 years from January 12, 2026. So anything after January 12, 2021 is acceptable. That's the completion date. Maybe you got it 20 years ago. That's fine. The completion date must be within the past 5 years. That's the second requirement. Now the third requirement is past performance rating. Must have a past performance rating of above. Note I'm underlining this, meaning that it must be above and not equal to satisfactory. That's average of all subfactors of your CPAR. So it comes from your CPAR, or if your contract doesn't have a CPAR, maybe it's a subcontract, or it's a commercial contract, or a state or local. Then there's a form called JP6, comes with the RFP. You get that filled and signed by the contracting officer or your prime, and that counts. So you have to have an above satisfactory rating for your past performance. And finally, the fourth and most important is relevance. Must be relevant to the domain, either through auto-relevance NAICS. Now, what are the auto-relevant NAICS? The same NAICS I listed for you for social services. If the 5 contracts that you're bringing to the table have those NAICS codes on them, you're good to go. You don't have to prove anything else. If they don't have those NAICS codes, but the scope of work really covered social services, then there is a form that comes with the contract again called JP3. You get that signed by the contracting officer or your prime if you have a subcontract, and that is acceptable. So Auto-relevant NAICS codes are the ones that are already acceptable. You don't have to do anything. If you don't have a correct NAICS code, you need to get that JP3 form signed. So I'm listing those NAICS codes again here. So if your contracts, those 5 contracts that you bring to the table have any of these NAICS codes, 524, 113, 114, 210, 292, and so on and so forth, and the next page, next slide, these are the rest, you're good to go. You don't have to prove anything else. But if your contracts don't have this, but the content covers it, then you have to get that JP3 form signed by the contracting officer or your prime. Okay, so that was the first subdomain, sub-factor, which we got 4 points for each contract. 5 times 4 is 20. This is the second one, scale. So for each QP contract, you get a point if its annual value is greater than or equal to 1 million. Remember, the minimum was 500K. 1 million for small business and 5 million for unrestricted. For unrestricted, it was 1 million minimum. Now here, if you have 5 million, you get an extra point. Or maybe the value is not high, but the number of FTEs, full-time employees, is equal or greater than 5 for small business and 25 for unrestricted, you get that 1 point. So sometimes you might have a large contract in terms of the annual value, you get extra points. But maybe the contract value is not high, is $500,000 or $600,000 annually for small business, but the number of FTEs is larger than 5. Then you get extra point. Now you get a second point for each QP if the annual value is greater than or equal to $2.5 million for small business and $15 million for unrestricted. So 1 point if the value is 1 million, I'm talking small business. 1 point if the value is $1 million. 1 extra point if the total value, annual value, is $2.5 million. Or again, maybe the value is not high, but the number of FTEs, full-time employees, is high. So 5, if there are more than 5, you get 1 point. More than 15, you get 1 extra point. The same stands for unrestricted, $5 million and $15 million, or 25 and 50 FTEs. Note that the credit is provided for the total project value, the annual project value, not just the portion relevant to this domain. So maybe you had a contract and it's a large contract, many different types of work. Social services is one of them. They don't want you to, say the annual value for the social services is more than $1 million or more than $2.5 million. The total annual value of the contract, doesn't matter what work you actually did for that. Okay, so also the total maximum score of this sub-factor is 7 for small business and unrestricted the same. So even if all your QPs get 2 points, which that turns into 10 points, then you still don't get more than 7 points. So you can't, even if all the 5 contracts get 2 points, maximum you can get is 7 points for this sub-factor scale. Let's go to the third one, integrated experience. So integrated experience, here you get 1 point per QP, per contract, if 5 or more labor categories were used in the execution of your contract. So maybe you had, 1 engineer, 1 clerk, 1 SME of, management and things like that. So different labor categories. If more than 5, doesn't matter, small business or unrestricted, you get 1 point per contract. Now, or for each QP, if the scope of the contract covers 3 or more domains. Remember, I'm saying domain. So this is social services domain. If the type of work that you did also covered, say, Intel, or also covered human capital, or also covered technical and engineering. So 3 different, it's called functional areas, but it's really domains essentially. 3 or more domains, you get 1 point. Note that I said or, it doesn't mean that they add up. So if a contract has both more than 5 labor categories and covers more than 3 domains, you still get 1 point for it, not 2 points. So unlike the previous sub-factor, here they don't add up. So 1 point per contract for either of these two. And it's the same for unrestricted as well, in terms of the 1 point that you get. Note that the total value, the total points for the integrated experience subfactor for small business is 5, obviously 1 per contract, but for unrestricted is 4. So even if all your contracts get points, you still cannot go over 4 points. This is how they have managed. Okay, fourth subfactor is management and staffing. For each QP, you get a point for any of these features in your contract. 4 of these. Surge, meaning increase of more than 10% of the value or work in less than 45 days of lead time. This is the definition of surge. So for surge, or if you use 3 or more subcontractors, 5 for unrestricted, or if you use 5 or more personnel with clearance meaning secret, top secret, and above, and Q for DOE. And if you use 5 or more licensed professionals in terms of social services. Now, you might have one QP getting 4 points. So you might have a QP, one contract that had a search capability in it. You use 3 or more subcontractors in it. You had personnel with 5 personnel or more with clearance, and you had 5 licensed professionals in it. Then you get 4 points for that one contract. But overall, for small business, you cannot get more than 6, and for unrestricted, you can't get more than 5. So that's how it's set up. And the last subfactor is past performance. If all 5 contracts, 5 QPs have a positive, that is above satisfactory, past performance rating shown by their CPAR or filled out JP6 forms, you get the maximum 3 points. So to get the 3 points, you have all the 5 contracts you have must have above satisfactory ratings, average. If 4 out of the 5 have above satisfactory, you get 2 points. And if 3 have them, 3 of your QPs have above satisfactory, you get 1 point. And below that, you don't get any points. A few important notes here. You can use a JP6 form. It's like a PPQ. If a CPARS is not available, but remember, you can't use any PPQs. You must use that JP6 form that comes with the RFP. But also note that if you have a CPAR, you can't use a PPQ. I mean a JP6 form. So you can only use a JP6 form and get it signed by the contracting officer if there is no CPAR. Now, also note that I said above satisfactory, and that is the average of the CPAR ratings. But if it is satisfactory all, the average overall, it's not acceptable. You have to be above satisfactory. And I'll explain that in the next slide. Also, for the unrestricted, there is one extra point. If all the 5 contracts that you as a large company bring to the table had a very good or exceptional rating for small business utilization subfactor in the CPARS, you get 1 extra point. So as a large business, if the 5 contracts you have had, you got very good or exceptional rating for small business utilization, you get 1 extra point. Now let's discuss the calculation of that above satisfactory one more time, or in more detail, I should say. These are usually ratings which are rated separately, the ratings within CPAR. So you have technical or quality of service, sometimes called, schedule, or sometimes called timeliness, cost control, management, or sometimes called business relations, and finally small business subcontracting or utilization, if applicable. So these are the subfactors within a CPAR that are rated. Now, the way you calculate your average score is that you give a point score to the ratings. That is, exceptional is 5, very good is 4, satisfactory is 3, marginal is 2, and unsatisfactory is 1. You replace these numbers for the ratings, add them up, divide by the number of applicable ones, and that's the average. If a rating is NA, so they didn't rate you, you don't actually count that. So let's look at our example in the orange block. We have This is a contract, say, technical, which is exceptional, so we put a 5 there. Schedule is satisfactory, we put a 3 there. Cost control is marginal, we put 2. Management is satisfactory, we put 3. Small business utilization is NA, so we don't count that. So the calculation is 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 comes to 13. You divide it by 4, not 5, because small business utilization is NA, which comes to 3.25. Now 3 is satisfactory, 3.25 is considered above satisfactory, so this contract is acceptable. This is how you actually calculate whether your past performance is acceptable or not. Okay, so there's also one special case that I want to cover. If you have a single award IDIQ or BPA and emphasis is on single award, and you being the prime, so then you're allowed to bunch up the task orders together and consider it as one of the 5 QPs. You can do this just once, so just one of your QPs can be like this. For example, consider the case of a single award IDIQ whose task orders all have an annual value of 100K. Obviously, you can't use them because the minimum value for social services is 500K annual value. Now, all the task orders have 100K, but you have a lot of them. What you can do is you can bunch up together 5 or 6 of these task orders to get above 500K, bunch up the total number of FTEs, for example, and other factors, and get the points for them. So that is something to consider as well. If you have a single award IDIQ or IDIQs with task orders that are small, you can always bunch them up together. It's called collection of task orders. Remember, only 1 out of the 5 QPs can be like that. So that was the main score factor, the QP factor, and its subfactors. Let's now consider the second main score factor, the FEP, or Federal Experience Projects subfactor. It was much smaller than QPs, but still sometimes you can fill in the gaps here. So there are 2 subfactors involved here. One is the number of task orders, and one is the number of federal agencies. I will cover each separately. And you can see small business in blue and unrestricted in orange are essentially the same. So, so you get 1 point for each task order that you have performed under a multiple, emphasis on multiple here, multiple award IDIQ or BPA, and you must be the prime. Meaning that if you were a subcontractor to a multiple award IDIQ, that can't be used. You must have been the prime company, performing that. So the maximum points is 4, meaning that you can have up to 4 different task orders, 1 point for each. Now these can all be under one multiple award IDIQ or BPA or under different ones, doesn't matter. Also, these contracts don't need to be the same ones you used in the 5 contracts for the QP factor. So these can be completely separate from the QP contracts that you used. You can perhaps use the same ones, but it's not a requirement. You can bring in other contracts. So there are 3 main requirements for this. They must be task orders under prime federal services, multiple award IDIQs or multiple award BPAs. Secondly, they must have an annual value of over 250K, not 500K, 250K annual value, the task orders I'm talking about. Same as small business. It's the same even for unrestricted. So for unrestricted submissions, if the annual value is over 250K, it's acceptable. And thirdly, they must be ongoing for 6 months or completed within the past 5 years, the same as QPs. Now, important, very important, their scope doesn't have to be relevant to your domain. Okay, so maybe you did, I don't know, construction, maybe you did pure IT, maybe as long as they're they have these requirements, 1A, B, and C, you're good to go. And they obviously must be task orders under multiple award IDIQs and BPAs, you being the prime. So what I mean is that don't try to specifically go for a social services domain. Maybe they were T&E, technical and engineering contracts, task orders. That's fine. They're not going to look at the scope of the contracts here. So that was the first 4 points there. One extra point, the second subfactor, is called federal agencies. If you can show that you have worked with 3 different agencies, you get 1 extra point. Work meaning you've gotten contracts, and these must be standalone or task orders with those 3 requirements similar to the previous subfactor, meaning federal prime contract, annual value over 250K, and 6 months of performance if ongoing or completed within the past 5 years. So if you can show that you had contracts with 3 different agencies, you're good to go. Remember, you must be prime, and you cannot use IDIQs and BPAs themselves. These have to be task orders under those if you're using, or they can be standalone contracts. Here they don't care as long as it's a complete contract. And again, here you don't have to show relevance to the domain. The contracts don't have to be the same ones you've used elsewhere for the QPs or even for the task orders under this same FEP the previous subfactor. So these can be completely 3 different contracts that you bring to the table. So those were the 2 subfactors for the second main subfactor, FEP. So for FEP, you get 4 points for task orders and 1 point here for federal, showing that you've worked with 3 or more federal agencies. Okay, now the third main score factor is systems, certifications, and clearances. Now here is a comparison of the points you get. Essentially similar for small business and unrestricted. Just for accounting system is a little bit more for unrestricted. So let me go very quickly on this. You can see that for accounting system, you get 1 point if you're a small business, 2 points for unrestricted. The 2 points for unrestricted, to get that, you need to have an accounting system or plus 2 other of the lists that you can see under 1. So approved rates, purchasing system, estimating system, EVMS, material management and accounting system, and property management system. 2 of these plus the accounting system, and you're good to go. You get 2 points. And again, 1 point I wanted to mention specifically is that whether it's small business or unrestricted, all these different types of certifications or systems, they must be government approved. So if you have an accounting system that's approved by a third party, that's not acceptable. They must have been approved by DCIA or DCMA, the government agencies. The rest of them similar. Now, for facility clearance, meaning that if your company has a active facility clearance of top secret or secret, doesn't matter which, you get 1 point. So that's it. You can't use pending. It won't be accepted. It has to be an active facility clearance. Finally, other certifications. So you get a maximum of 1 point if your company has any of the below certifications, any one of these. So ISO 9001, 22301, business continuity, Commission on Accreditation and Rehabilitation Facilities, CARF accreditation, and Council on Accreditation, COA accreditation. Any of these, if you have, you get 1 extra point. So those were the systems. Now there is a special case, mentor protege JVs. I also wanted to mention this. If you're submitting your proposal as an MPJV, mentor protege JV, for QPs, at least 1 QP, one of the 5 contracts, must come from the protege company. So it can't be the case that all 5 contracts are from the mentor. The minimum threshold, however, annual value for each domain is halved when a protege submits a contract. For example, for social services small business, the minimum annual value for QP contracts was, as we mentioned, 500K. But when a mentor protege JV is submitting a proposal, if the contract comes from the protege, it can be above 250 instead of 500K, and you will receive the points. This works for the number of FTEs as well. So if you were supposed to have, say, 10 FTEs to get a point, if the protege is, if the contract is from the protege and they use 5 FTEs in that contract, you get the point instead of 10. Also for FEPs, the second main subfactor, second main factor, the FEP contracts, remember the minimum value was 250K annually. If the contract is coming from the protege, it can be above 125K instead of 250K. Finally, these rules apply to UNR submissions, the unrestricted submissions too. So maybe a mentor-protege JV submitting under a social services unrestricted track, the annual value of the protege contract doesn't have to be $1 million. It can be above 500K instead. So that was the scoring system for this domain. Let's now discuss eligibility assessment as well as score optimization. These are the first steps that you should take. If you have multiple contracts, use a tool to first profile your contracts and see what score each will bring for you, and then which 5 QPs to select to maximize your score. I'll show you our eligibility assessment tool on the next slide. To do that, you need to read the RFP and the Q&As, usually the previous Q&As and the latest RFP documents for the original OASIS Plus carefully, and fully understand the requirements for each score factor. You must create a table to score each score factor for each of your QPs. Then estimate your best score and do a gap analysis of where you're short. In doing that, focus on maximizing the score on the 5 qualifying projects and maximize the use of your commercial subcontract projects if possible. Now, following your gap analysis, decide on partnering and multiple partners, maybe, to boost your score. You should consider outsourcing the eligibility assessment to ensure you have a good chance of success. Now, this is a form we use to do eligibility assessment for our clients, and I'm going to give you the link for this service as well. It makes sure that you don't spend money on something that you don't have a chance on, and also ensures you know where your gaps are to bring on team partners. So for each contract, you have to, on the column on the right-hand side, the yellow column, is where you actually respond to them, the value, duration, whether you use 5 FTEs or not. So these are the specific questions that we have prepared that you have to answer to. And then based on that, this is another page. Now, based on the previous slides form, our tool creates this, which independently scores each contract. The 10 columns from the right and the graphical representation of the score below it, are produced from those the previous form that I showed you, and then it automatically picks the best 5 to maximize the score. So those columns that are green are the best 5. The orange column is the final best score you get for each scoring subfactor, with the total at the bottom. In this case, it's 44 out of 50, which is good. This is a small business submission. So this is specifically telling you, hey, you're good to go. You don't need a partner. You are a few points above the minimum threshold of 36. So everything is good. Maybe the total comes to, say, 32, in which case where this shows you where you're missing points and what partners to look for to actually get those points above 36. So we call this the eligibility assessment service that we're providing. And if you're interested in our eligibility assessment service, you can click on the offer tab on the right hand side panel to go to the link to read more on the service and request it if you want. Let's discuss substantiation now. Remember, the proposal you're supposed to provide is essentially the documents that prove your self-score is justifiable. These are the award document, perhaps, the statement of work, the SAO, the FPDS printouts of the contract. FPDS is the government website that has lists all the contracts. So it's considered official document when you have a printout of it. The CPARS, or the JP6 in lieu of CPAR, and the JP3 form if your contract's NAICS is not what it's supposed to be, or if you're a sub and want to prove relevance and other QP subfactor information. So you need to tag and highlight the relevant information on each piece of document. Let's see some example of this. So this is an example, a Word document with relevant pieces of information highlighted and tagged as well. This is an FPDS printout, again with relevant pieces of information like contract number, dates, values, etc., highlighted and tagged. So this is how the documents. Now you can see that there are a lot of moving parts involved, so you need to know what documents you need to present to justify each point score. They're not necessarily just one document required per point score, so you need a checklist sample here, for example, to ensure that nothing is missing. This is an example of a checklist for the 5 contracts that were selected for QPs are listed at the above under 3. Those are the 5 contracts, and below it are the documents that are needed. And when it's ticked, it means that it's ready and it's prepared. So for each of the score factors, you might need different documents, and they have to be tagged, highlighted, things like that. So a lot of document management work needs to be done. Okay, so that brings us to the importance of compliance in these self-scoring proposals. Due to shortage of time, I will not go into the slides about compliance. I just want to emphasize the importance of compliance. I've seen many companies, in fact, lose because of not paying enough attention to this and not paying the price for ensuring compliance when they're preparing their proposal. So please go through the slides that I have put in here and discuss it with your team when you are actually preparing your proposal. Now, with regards to price, there's always a question as to how price delay plays in the self-scoring proposal submission. The short answer is no score is given for price. They just check it to be within the acceptable range and complete for all items. That's it. A few points. You can refer to this slide later, but essentially you have to provide pricing for 20 LCATs at the SME subject matter expert level, and you want to make sure that you're not below the maximum you are below the maximum acceptable government rate. And that's all there is to it. They give you what is the maximum acceptable rate. You just want to make sure that you're below that. That's all there is to it. So it's very easy to prepare your price form. There's a form that comes with it. With the RFP, you just have to fill it out. Okay, teaming is extremely important in OASIS Plus. The short rule is if your own score cannot be above the threshold, use teaming, period. No indecision. In OASIS Plus, everything is about the score. Whether you get your score all by yourself or you have a team of 5 subs, for example, the government doesn't care. At the end of the day, the score is the king. Now, some key points here. I will not go into the details of all of them, but essentially, I recommend, or we recommend as our company, that if you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, so this is new. If you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, consider using a partner. You need those cushion points, those 3 to 5 points. For JVs, MPJVs, prime sub relationships, all are acceptable. You can use the partners contracts for QPs and FEPs, which account for nearly 90% of the total score. One important factor is that if you're a small business, your subcontractors must also be small under that particular domain. You can read the rest of these points that I've listed here later on when you refer back to it. And we have a free partnering portal. You can see the link here. I'll put it up on the chat as well. So you can actually register here, go find your partner, whether you want to be prime or sub, and this way you can actually communicate with them and reach an agreement and work from there. So this is a free partnering portal. We've already, I think 400 companies registered and got together during the previous OASIS Plus submission. So this is something very helpful. Okay, and this is the first page of that site. Let's now discuss strategy and share some experience. So this is perhaps the most important opportunity for many businesses for the next 10 years, or I should say 8 years. There is no competition, so use all means possible to win a seat, including partnering with other companies, either as prime or as a sub. Expand on domains. If you have past performance in any domains other than your main domain, but not the required 5 QPs, don't relent. Use partners and expand your grasp by going after multiple domains. This holds true for both small business and unrestricted tracks. For small businesses, don't stick to just your own set-aside track. First of all, you should also go for the total small business track. It's considered separate from 8A Hub Zone, WOSB, and STB OSB. It's a complete track. And secondly, if you have strong QPs, by all means, go for the unrestricted track as well. Say you're sure that you get above 42, why not go for unrestricted as well? At the same time, don't be overconfident. Self-scoring proposals are all about analytical thinking. Good writing skills, which is the key strength of us proposal managers, is of no help here. You need to have good analytical thinking capabilities and good document management. Now, outsource if you have not done this before. Even if you have, get your proposal reviewed by an outside source. I've seen many companies lose because of not doing that. Now, focus on your QPs. They are the driving factor. I think I've shown that in different ways to you. First, do an eligibility assessment to understand your gaps and the need for teaming. Maximize your score. Use a pair contract scoring system to see what your score looks like. If below the threshold, that's 36 for small business, 42 for unrestricted, select a partner as soon as possible. Companies are already teaming up, so you need to hurry. Ensure that you have 4 to 5 question points, as I mentioned previously, even if you have to partner to get them. Maximize the use of your subcontracts and or commercial contracts, if you have any. There's no difference. You get the points and that's it. Check compliance, think compliance, and eat compliance. It's really important. Don't lose time. Time is of essence. You don't want to miss the 2026 task orders. So start yesterday. Start as soon as possible. And here I wanted to share our experience in terms of the time and resources needed for the preparation and submission of the OASIS Plus proposal. There are essentially 4 main phases. There is a phase 0 eligibility assessment if you're unsure about moving forward, but there are 4 main phases. Phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. Phase 2, preparation of the proposal documents. That's essentially the proposal preparation, or we call it substantiation. Phase 3, compliance reviews. It's a phase by itself, important. And then phase 4, uploading to Symphony. Symphony is the government's portal. Don't underestimate this. It usually takes 2 or 3 days. It's not a copy paste. So the graphical representation of the time and resources for each phase is shown also. So you can see that 50% of the time is spent in phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. This is the average we have found preparing over 200 OASIS Plus and other self-scoring proposals. So I just wanted to share this with you as well. So how can we help you on OASIS Plus? Here are the services we have. We have free consultation. Just we set up time to call and we discuss, answer any questions you have. Free partnering hub, which I showed you, and you can go to the website and register and then start finding teaming partners. Pre-qualification assessment. Again, I gave you the link, $490, so that you don't spend money on something that you don't have the minimum capabilities. Also, it gives you where your gaps are, so you know how to partner with others. Full proposal development with dedicated proposal team. So we do scoring, assessment, optimization, full proposal assembly, cradle to grave. Everything is on us. Full and multiple compliance checks, uploading to Symphony. All of this is on us. We are different from other companies. Some companies just give you consultation. That's not how we work. We don't give consultation. We take the responsibility, because at the end of the day, we want you to win. It's good for us. Our win rate is good for you. You don't lose your money and you get awarded. So we take the whole, heavyweight and work, and you just provide us with the documents. We do everything else for you. And finally, for those of you who have in-house teams, we do reviewing and auditing. So we do 2 rounds of compliance checks and score optimization checks, and we also help and audit uploading to Symphony for you. So these are the services we provide. Here are contact information, myself, email and phone number. and my colleague Maroon Freedy. So if you have any sales inquiries or you want to set up calls, just contact Maroon. Email is usually better for both of us. Technical questions for me, and consulting and sales inquiries for Maroon, and we can set up calls, jump on them, and discuss any of your needs or answer any questions you might have. Okay, so not much time and a lot of questions. So let's answer a few questions. Question from John. Did you say we can have subs, but how many is acceptable? As many as you like, no limitation. Question from Alice. Can we be sub under multiple primes? Yes, but remember that you can't lend them the same contracts if they're going for the same domain and same track. You have to have different contracts in that case. Question from Mark. You mentioned extra points for surges in our contracts. How do we prove it? The mere fact that the contract or the SAO mentions the possibility of a surge is not enough, because it might not have been executed actually. You have to show specific documents like payment slips or letters from the contracting officer, that sort of thing, requesting the search situation and similar documents to prove that it was indeed executed. Question from Sandra. Can large businesses also use subs and their contracts for QPs? Yes, you can, similar to small businesses. Question from Lisa. What if our contracts do not have CPARS? You mentioned the form. Right. If you don't have a CPAR, there's a form called JP6 that comes with the RFP, and you have to ask your contracting officer, or if you're using a subcontract, your prime, to fill it up and sign it and send it back to you. Remember, unlike the other bids where the JP6 is essentially similar to PPQs, past performance questionnaires, but unlike others, they're not supposed to be sent to the contracting officer directly. They must sign and send it back to you, and you put it as part of your proposal and submit it to the government. So I can see a lot of questions about our sales and inquiries about our services and things like that. Those I will communicate with you directly, but yes, as I mentioned, we can support you fully on this opportunity. Question from Steve. Can I use a contract that has 4 months of performance now, but wait 2 more months and then submit my submission? I don't think so. The cutoff date is January 12th, 2026. So you need to have received your contract before July 12th, 2025. This is one of the questions that I've heard more about. So perhaps you can actually submit this question to the government and see what they say. Question from Joe. We want to go for multiple domains. How do we prepare our proposal? Good question, Joe. You have to submit separate proposals for each domain and in fact for each track. So if you want to go for the social services domain as well as say human capital domain, and you're both an 8A and hub zone company, then you have to submit 6 different proposals. Total small business for social services, 8A for social services, hub zone for social services. That's 3 proposals. Then total small business for human capital, 8A for human capital, and finally hub zone for human capital. So you can see you have a lot of work to do to prepare all these proposals. Okay, we are past our allocated time, so I would like to first apologize for not being able to answer all your questions. I will certainly respond by email. Also, thank you for participating in our webinar. I look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Have a wonderful day.